For all those viewing, I just want to let you know that we do have an application engineer watching the comments. So if you do have any questions or anything you'd like to submit or ask, please put it in the comments and an application engineer will do his best to address it. All right, thank you for joining us today and welcome to our ESPRIT EDGE Improving Productivity, Your Guide to Success webinar. I'm Anthony Kuban, who'll be presenting along today with my colleague Corey Medina, answering questions. We have some exciting content to present to you all today. Okay, so our agenda today for improving productivity for production milling will include ESPRIT EDGE updates. So we're going to talk about some updates that are going into ESPRIT EDGE, some training options that are tailored to your needs as a customer, and some productivity best practices within the EDGE software. Okay, so some of the updates that we've seen for EDGE in the first quarter of 2021 here is they've improved some facing cycle finish passes. They've made improvements to profit turning. They've also added duplicate previous machine setup, which is something we're going to cover today. Work offset tracking with collinear axis. Machine with spindle clamp mounted on a swiveling axis. And machines with Z-axis on main and sub spindles. And then they added a new feature called 5-axis remachining, a whole new tool path that kind of came out of ESPRIT 2K. Okay, so this is just kind of a look at our success with ESPRIT EDGE through PMT. Kind of our process flow here is to go through demoing your application, your parts, and your workflow. So showing how ESPRIT EDGE can work for your specific parts. Providing solutions for perpetual multi-user upgrades and implementation. And then we are also going to cover health checks, right? So our customer service will provide active support, routine check-ins, return on investment, and on-site visits. All right, so what our training can look like for ESPRIT EDGE, we have a lot of different options. We can do virtual, so again, using your parts, using dialed-in posts, learning at your pace. We can do anything from 1 to 3 days. And of course, we can record the class for you so you can use it again as a training example in the future. Another option being on-site, again, allowing us to use your own parts, with dialed-in posts, your pace learning. It allows us to kind of tailor it more towards your equipment, right, being there on-site. All right, so another option we have is open enrollment, where we can cover turn mill or milling parts. Again, dialed in for you. We're going to offer this class monthly, and that'll be a 3-day class. Okay, so today we're going to cover some ESPRIT EDGE programming. We're going to be doing it on a mill. This is going to be a DMG Mori DMU. It's going to be tombstone fixturing and a kind of a nice little 4-axis part here to machine. So talking about some productivity best practice we're going to cover today. We're going to show you how to set up the program using a template file. So we're going to load in a machine with fixturing, a lot of the programming already done. We're kind of going to be covering a lot of the power of active workpieces. Okay, so showing you how to move workpieces and use programs you've already programmed to kind of overlay them onto multiple fixtures, and then showing the ease of switching fixtures. So within that, we're going to easily duplicate workpieces and then show you how to do program optimization. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Corey Medina. He's going to be showing you a technical demonstration on those principles.
All right, so we'll be doing the demo from here. So what we have here is we have a part that we have programmed on a 3-axis machine initially. So we programmed this on a 3-axis machine. We had about 5 setups that we had to do, but what we were doing is we're making a prototype for a customer, and we sent this prototype to the customer. The customer's happy with it, so now he gave us the go ahead and throw this into production. So originally our plan was to throw this on a 3-sided tombstone for production. And you can see that here. So if I swap over to my machine view, you can see that we already have the part loaded on this 3-sided tombstone. And if I hit play, you can see that we can simulate through all of the operations that we have created for this. So while the customer was approving this and while we were setting this up on our 3-sided tombstone, what ended up happening is our machine that had this tombstone loaded on it is now being occupied by another part. So we just want to show you how easy it is to swap over and use a different fixture within a spree without having to reprogram the part. And so once again, when we're focusing on productivity, it's also being able to pivot from certain scenarios without hindering any type of production. So the way that I'm going to do this is I need to go into my machine setup. So I'm going to go into my machine setup, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this tombstone. So I'm just going to right click on this tombstone here, and I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to click OK. And so what I want to show you is I still have the part. Part is still here. We have our 2 setups that were created for our tombstone, and all the operations are still here as well. So the only thing that we did is we kind of got rid of the fixturing, and we're going to add that fixturing based on what the machine that's available has for us. So if I go into my machine setup, I can go into fixture and I can find a tombstone that will work. So the tombstone that's on this other machine is going to be a 4-sided tombstone, so I can add that tombstone in. And then to the tombstone, I got to add some fixturing. So I'm going to go into fixture. I'm going to add some vices to this as well. So I'm going to add this vice here, and I'm going to translate it a little bit. I'm going to move it up on the tombstone because I do want to throw another fixturing down here. I'm also going to rotate it 90 degrees because that's how the part is sitting when we programmed it in our setup. So I want to make sure that the fixturing is rotated as well. So I can click OK to that. And then I'm going to go back to the tombstone and add another fixture. It's going to be the exact same one. I'm going to put it on same face. So right here, and I am going to translate it. This one does not have to be rotated. This one will just be sitting normal. So I can click OK to that as well. So now that we have our vices positioned correctly, what we can do is we can click on a vice and we can add a workpiece. So the first workpiece we're going to add is going to be our first setup. And if I zoom in here, you can see that our workpiece is not quite in the vice. That's easy to fix. I'm going to temporarily give it a 5-inch, let's see, in Z, so I can use the mating that we have within ESPRIT. So I'm going to select this bottom surface here, and then I'm going to select this surface of the vice as well. And what this is going to do is this is going to center the part within the vice using center mating here. So you can see that that is now centered on the vice. It does put the 2 faces together, so we do need to do one more piece of alignment. So I'm going to select this bottom face here. I'm going to select this face here, and I'm going to do alignment mating. So what this is going to do is this is just going to shift the part up to the top of the jaws so that we can machine this. So now I can click OK to this. And so this first part is now ready to go. So we want to choose our second vice, and we want to add our second workpiece to that. So it's going to be, instead of workpiece 1, it's going to be workpiece 2. And as you can see, we actually created stock, and this is what our part looks like after the first setup has been run. So you can see that we have some like stock automation built in, that we created a stock model to represent what we did on our first setup. And then we're going to do the same thing. So now you can see the condition of this part is in a state where we were programming the first side. So with this particular part, I'm actually just going to select this top face because I do want to flip this part around, and select this face here. And then I'll do center mating again. And so that flips the part around and centers it on our vise. And then the only thing I have left to do is to get it aligned in Z. So basically move it to the top of the jaws. And that's going to be with our alignment mating right here. So now that we have the parts in there properly, if we wanted to, I'm gonna hit OK to this, and then OK one more time. And so now this is in a state that it was in when we had our 3-sided tombstone. Both these parts are loaded, and we can simulate this to make sure it's going to work on just these 2 parts. So we can go into simulation and we can play through this, and you can see we didn't have to move any programs over. We didn't have to, change the tooling or anything like that. We just changed the fixturing, and ESPRIT handled all the rest for us. So now this simulation ran good. So what we can do is now we can duplicate this part on the other sides of the tombstone. So to do that, we go back to our home tab, and I'm going to go back into my machine setup, and I'm going to click on our first vise because we want to move the vise with the workpiece. And I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to go back to my tombstone, and I'm going to paste it onto the remaining sides of the tombstone. So I'm going to put it on the 90, the 180, and the 270 side, and I'm going to hit apply. So you can see right away, it duplicates that on each sides of the tombstone. I'm going to do the same thing with this second workpiece. So you can see that we're second workpiece, but we want to move the vise along with the workpiece. So I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go back into the tombstone, and I'm going to paste it on the remaining sides as well. And so now we have this, all sides are now occupied and ready for production. So I can click OK to this. And so then what ESPRIT is going to do is it is going to start duplicating each process on each side of the vise. It's going to handle all the rotations for us. You don't have to tell it, okay, we're going to now switch to B90. It's going to do all of that for you as well. Another thing that we can do is we could optimize this program as well. So I'll show you that in a second, but I'm going to go into my simulation. I'm just going to show you how I didn't have to reprogram anything. ESPRIT is just going to automatically start working on this first side. And then as we move along, you can see it's already working on all 4 of the sides of this part that we copied and pasted into the other setup. So that right there is going to increase your productivity and production, because it's as simple as you're focusing on one part, get it programmed how you like it, and then from there you can just move it around on the different fixturing that you want. So I'll stop out of that, and I wanted to show you that how we can optimize this even further. So if I go into my file and I go to options, there is a segment within machining that's called sorting. And so what this sorting will do is this is going to allow you to increase your productivity by cutting down on cycle time. And you can do this however you see fit. It could be different based on part, based on the type of operations that are on each setup, but we have these 3 options here. So by workpiece. So by workpiece is going to focus on staying on one workpiece. The by orientation is going to focus on operations that have the same orientation. So to expand on that, if we were working on a part that has everything in setup 1, but then it also has some side holes. But because those side holes are now in the same orientation on the other 2 sides of the tombstone, it will actually cut those as well, because it's in that orientation. And then by tool, this is going to cut down on tool changes. So if I was to choose, let's go by tool, and then we can do by orientation, because when we have a tool loaded, if there's an operation that is in the proper orientation and using the same tool, we want to go ahead and hit that as well. And then we'll do by workpiece last. So once you change your sorting, you come over here and then you can hit this optimize program. And so when you do this, Esprit is going to tell you, so our original was going to be the 15 tool changes. And so then when we optimize it, it's going to cut it down to 14. The number of workpiece changes was 2, and then now it's up to 74. Now, just so you know, I did do this optimize when there was only 2 parts loaded, so it's going to be significantly less. But the nice thing about this is it tells you what happens when you do hit the optimize on this. And so now that this is optimized, we can go ahead and go into simulation, and then we can play through this. And I can slow it down a bit just so you can see that it's going to face it. And then as soon as it's done facing, it rotates and goes into the facing on the other sides as well. So what it's doing is it's respecting the ordering that I did. So it's doing it by tool, and then it's also doing it by orientation as well, so, or by rotation. So it's going to hit other features, like for instance, this part here, if there was a feature that was aligned with this spindle, it would hit this as well because we have that in our setting. So if I just speed this up to full speed so we can get through these parts, and then I can show you how when we do the optimization, how it does change when we have a full array of parts on a tombstone. So you can see actually right there, you could actually see it where it hit this part as well, because it was using a spot drill to spot drill some of the holes on this first side. And so then it was saying, hey, we use the same tool, and this part is in the proper orientation for that. So we're going to go ahead and do that one as well. So what we're doing here is we're just running through this whole process with our optimization and just making sure that we have clearance, because one thing that we did add that we didn't have in our original program is a reach. We have a different reach over here because we told the Esprit, hey, if there's operations that have the same orientation, we want to hit those as well. So we want to make sure that we can reach these operations with the tooling that we have loaded. Also, it gives us our simulation time. So you can see right here, it's going to be the 2 hours, 25 minutes for all of these parts to be done. And then we have some status here as well. So if I was to stop to get out of this and then go to my home tab, I'll just show you that we will, if I go into file and change these options, so it's going to be once again options, and then it's going to be machining and then sorting. Let's just change this and say, let's move by tool to the bottom. And then we'll leave orientation and by workpiece and click OK. And then I just wanted to show you that when you hit optimize program, it will tell you how things have changed. So you can see at this time, this is the optimizations we had, the sorting that we did, or the optimized program that we had, and then we changed it and then we changed it down here. So now we have the number of tool changes is 56 instead of 15. The workpiece changes is 52. The rotations goes from 23, from 50 to 23, and then we have our total axis of B rotations is going to be 2070 degrees. So the that's going to increase productivity. It's going to increase production. And the nice thing about it is we didn't have to reprogram the part. We didn't even have to really move it, move it around in the fixturing. That can all be handled separately in our machine setup. So what this is going to do is this is going to get you, get stuff loaded on the floor quicker. And it's going to also give you peace of mind knowing that we didn't have any collisions, that our tooling worked. And so then we can handle adversities like machine down or machine occupied or something like that. So thank you for watching.